Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show.
This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 350.
Whitetail Rendezvous and Strike Force Energy have joined together. What have they joined together to do? Well, they joined together to help you kick the can. That's right. Strike Force Energy is the fastest growing new energy drink on Amazon today. It's simple. All you do is rip, drip, and sip. That's it. No sugar, no crash, no calories. It gives you the ability to focus and stay in the stand, stay on the hunt all day long without carrying around a can. When I get a sample pack, simply go to strikeforceenergy.com, put in WR free, and you'll get a 4-count sample pack from Strike Force Energy.
3.
On today's episode, I welcome David Page. David is from Idaho, and he's one heck of a photographer. A good friend, Kevin Orthman, recommended that I get a hold of David because David has traveled the West. He's run raging rivers. He spent years in Africa filming and taking stills and also video. He's also quite the outdoorsman, and he's teaching his young daughter how to hunt. With all that being said, David Page is one heck of a man, and I'm proud to say he's a friend and a great guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
It's never too early to think about food plots. Whitetail Rendezvous has an ebook for you. Just simply text 33444 food plot to get your copy.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, we're heading out to Idaho land, and we're going to talk with David Page. Who is David Page? Well, he's the director at the Confluence Group of Marketing, but he's more than that, folks, and you're going to find out about it. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. And one of my folks, it was kind of down memory lane for me because a lot of places David has been and rivers he's run, I've been there and done that on some of the rivers. And, we got a lot in common. So let's start off with your love for the outdoors, and you're in a wild place. If you get in the Selway, Bitterroots, that's some of the wildest in the lower 48. I think you'd agree to that.
Oh, for sure. I don't know many more wild than the Selway Bitterroot.
So let's talk about your career. Let's talk about, a few things you've done. We got about 30 minutes to chit chat here, and let's just open it up and give you the mic.
Well, I've been more than fortunate, I would say. When I was in high school, everybody was starting to pick careers and kind of focus where their life was going. And I was focused on where I was going to fish and hunt next. I guess I grew up all my life in the outdoors. It's a large part, if not one of the strongest part of who I am. My grandfather owned a sporting goods store, which he handed off to my father and his brothers. And all of our time outside of the home and school was spent in the outdoors. That's how we recreated. That's how we did everything we did. So I got out of high school and married my high school sweetheart, so to speak. And our first big adventure was to move to Sitka, Alaska. And she went to school, and I went hunting and fishing. Took a small job, but it was all about the adventure for me. So that led us back to Idaho eventually. Idaho is always going to be a part of who I am, and probably will always be home base for me. So we've spent 25 years together chasing the outdoor dream, so to speak.
Now, in one of the pictures you sent, you had a Cape Buffalo and Doggerboy. Where did Doggerboy come from? Where did that moniker, show up in the hunting world?
Oh, geez. That would have to go back to the early days of Africa. And, some would say it came from Hemingway or maybe Ruark or the great hunters of past. But, to be quite honest with you, I don't really know where the meaning came from. So it's said to be a Hindu name. So I would assume it would translate from one of the early hunters out there. But it means, in layman's terms, for a hunter, it's the old, past prime, mature bulls that have separated from the herd and hang out by themselves or in small little bachelor herds together.
And thanks for that. I'm thinking Peter Chapstick. I'm gonna have to do some research because a friend of mine, he's got his flat boat named Doggaboy, and we were fishing one time, and I said, "What's that for?" He says, "Well, you've seen him on the wall."
Yeah, right.
And I'm going, okay. And folks, we're transgressing. Cape buffalo obviously are found in Africa, and David's been there with gun and camera. And let's get into your camera because folks, David Page, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, and his photos will just blow you away. I mean, they're composed so well, they tell the story. Words aren't necessary when you look at his pictures, and so props to you on your work.
I sure
in
appreciate
that format.
It. I was a hunting and fishing guide, and I had a friend that he was a client, and his wife had a moose tag, and we ended up just on a friendly hunt together, and it so happened that they took a marvelous Shearus moose, and he was on his way to Africa, and I was on my way to New Zealand, and he said, "You know what? You should just come to Africa instead." So we canceled our trip to New Zealand and ended up going over to Africa and spending time with them. And I shot some stuff while I was there, and I was fortunate to be on a few leopard hunts, and the people liked what they saw. And long story short, running a camera professionally fell into my lap. People liked my eye, and it didn't start here in the States. It actually started in Africa. Some friends at a safari outfit called me and asked me to come over and be their cameraman for a year. And obviously, being married with a daughter, I couldn't do it all. I couldn't just leave. So we set it up where I would go for a while, and then my wife would come over for a while, and then one of us was always here in the States with our daughter. And that's where it got started. And I became very passionate about it, and I didn't want to quit on what I really love to do. And so I just worked my way through it, and it was brutal. I didn't make much money at first, but I've worked my way into where I'm at now, and as director of production for several different TV shows and whatnot. And so I guess somewhat of an accomplished photographer. I'm pretty humble about my pictures and whatnot, because they're just moments, they're snapshots of my vision of where I was at the time. And to put them out in front of people is sometimes a little humbling, and it's a little unnerving for me, because you never want somebody to not like what you've shot or how you've shot it or whatever it may be. But I'm starting to get over that, and I enjoy showing people my moments in time wherever I've been. I spent about 6 years over in Africa, going back and forth, and I ended up back into the private sector here in the U.S., out of the hunting world into the performance car world, shooting racing, and then over into the off-road sector, shooting rock crawling and racing and different things like that. And I got lucky. A friend that knew me from my past said, "Hey, I need you," and that led to me to where I'm at right now. So we run a small little crew, and we support the outdoor trade space.
Well, if you ever go to the Confluence Group website, it's simple, but it has depth, and it invites you to contact them. And when I went to their site, I went, "This is cool." One, because of my time on the river, and the other thing is it's clean, and once you want to find out more because you know some of the backstory, and then you want more. So I like your website. So
we just it's still just a work in progress. We've been in business for about 8 months now. Our list of clients is growing by the day. I mean, it's just incredible, the reception that we've got. And I hope that means we're doing good work. But our website was designed to have customers get in touch with us, because I believe in this digital day and age, we've lost touch with people. And we don't want you to understand what we do via something that you read on a screen. We want to talk to you and engage with you and tell you how we can help. Not really there to sell anybody anything. We're here to help people.
Yeah, and that interesting. I'm kind of smiling to myself because at Whitetail Rendezvous, we get people together. And as I told you about Top Priority Hunting, I had Garrett Bowman on the phone, and they're a young, up and coming group and do some great photography work. And if you go to their site, folks, Top Priority Hunting, you're going to see the clarity and the composition and all the things that, again, like David does, it tells the story without words, and that's a beautiful thing. But they're real people, and our show's about real people and real places. And so, it's exciting to have the synergy with guys like you and Garrett, hundreds of other guests that I've had on the show. Let's talk about POMA. What is POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association? Why is that important to you?
Well, I my first run-in with POMA was about 2011. I was a young, up-and-coming producer, shooting, some outdoor television type stuff, and I was shooting a pilot for a show that I was hoping to pitch, and I ran into some issues with the permit, and somebody suggested that I get a hold of POMA, and I did, and they helped walk me through the process. They're an advocate for the Outdoor Media Association, and I don't necessarily think that there could be a better person in line with trying to help what we do. They understand who we are and what we're doing, because they are who we are and what we're doing in the outdoor world. So it's a great organization. Kevin Orthman is a good friend of mine, and he knows what he's doing. He has a strong passion for the outdoors trade space and the outdoor media relations, and I really believe he transcends between the people very well.
I would agree. And folks, if you haven't listened to Kevin's interview on Whitetail Rendezvous, go back, just go into my archive and pull him up, throw up his name, Kevin Orthman, Orthman. And you're going to hear a great story about a man, just like David said, who is passionate about the outdoors, but he connects people that you read about, hear about every single day. They're members of POMA, and I'm a voting member also. And because it's important to be, whatever you're doing out there, become more than just a user, become a giver. And that's the simplest way I can say it.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about that. Since you're into hunting and you're into conservation, how do those two come together, and how are you trying to bring them closer together?
Well, I grew up in the hunting world, and I've read all the magazines. I mean, Outdoor Life and Field and Stream and Sports Afield were, the magazines by my bed at night when I would sneak them under the covers and read with a flashlight when I was supposed to be asleep. And there's never been a time where everything isn't more polarized in the anti-hunting world as well as the hunting world. We've taken hard stances against each other, and I don't necessarily know if that's the right way we're ever going to get anything done on either side. I went to Africa the first time, and I had a hard-nosed look at how things were done, and you see all the things on anti-hunting on TV and television, and even in some of the written stuff, and everything's extinct. And I get there, and I'm like, wow, this isn't true. This can't be right, and so of course, I ask a lot of questions and this, that, and the other thing. And then on an off time, I actually had when I wasn't hunting and filming hunts, I had a chance to do some work with a conservation group. They needed a cameraman. And of course, it's how I make my living. So sometimes you have to bite your tongue and do work where you don't want to. And I met some really wonderful people. And they showed me their view of it. And quite frankly, it was very close to the same. I mean, we want to see the great creatures of the world still roam the earth together. And I think everybody has that near and dear to the heart, that they're afraid to talk to one another and actually speak out and say, hey, we might have some of the same views. What happens if we work together instead of against each other? And I think Namibia actually sets the bar for that. They listen to the hunter, but they also listen to the conservationists. And Namibia is one of the last great strongholds in all of Africa of the black rhino. I mean, they still have a poaching problem. Don't get me wrong, but they work together, and they've realized that hunting is a great conservation tool, and it's one of the only sustainable practices that's still going to keep animals on the ground. At the same time, it has to be done a certain way. You have to go by the old past prime, credo, basically, and shoot animals that are not breeding animals anymore, or so on and so forth. And that model is working. And there's other countries in Africa that are starting to take shape in that. And I believe that maybe if we worked a little more like Namibia in the U.S., maybe we would get a little more done around here. So I really don't know how that's going to play out in the future, or if I would even be involved. But I do believe that nothing gets done when you both dig your heels into the sand and don't even talk to one another. So it was kind of funny, actually. I was in a hunt in Mozambique in the Nyassa Reserve, and we were actually hunting lions, and everything was permitted accordingly, and it was fully legal, and everything's there. And we actually ran into one of the cat researchers, one of the leading cat researchers in the world, I would say in the top 5. And we actually had a tea together, and I asked some questions, and she fully admitted and supported hunting as a sustainable practice, as long as it follows those guidelines of, making sure they're mature past prime animals. And, she was one to say, hey, I don't want to see any animal killed or harmed or whatnot, but I understand that some of those animals aren't going to be around anymore if we don't allow hunting, if we don't assign a value to those animals. So it was nice in a different setting where there was no pressure and there was nothing going on, and she could be frank with me and not admit, but basically say, hey, we have the same common bond. We don't want things to go away, but we got to learn to work together. So that's my views on it.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com.
Well said, and Whitetail Nation, just take what David just said, and if you're not involved in your state in the conservation with your DNR and have a seat at the table, we'll get one, because I learned so much when I had a seat at the table here in Colorado with Colorado Parks and Wildlife for a few years, and just to listen to the biologists and listen to all the people that make it work. So I have elk in the mountains, I have sheep in the mountains, I have goats in the mountains, and moose and antelope. Those critters exist because of hunters. There's no question Pittman Robinson money pays it. But if you want to be part of the solution, then get a seat at the table. What does that mean? Volunteer. Go to your local DNR office and say, hey, I'd like to help out. And begin with small steps. Don't say, I want to be on the, the committee, the board, of the people in the state until you earn it. If you earn it, well, the governor will put you on there if you earn it. But I've met so many great people that they're biologists, and they care more about an elk than I ever did until I sat down, common ground. We're talking about elk. Okay, how can we make this work? And that's what it's about. And I just echo what David just said. So you got to become involved. If you don't become involved, don't go to the bar and piss and moan about what the DNR is doing.
You have no opinion if you don't if you're not involved. And especially in this day and age where everybody's, digitally tough or can say whatever they want on a forum or on Facebook or whatnot. If you don't make your opinion known, if you don't get involved and help and volunteer, and just like Bruce said, your opinion should never be heard.
Well said. Let's get past that. Let's talk about your daughter Grace and the hunter that she's becoming.
Yeah, Actually, my wife wasn't much of a hunter when I met her, and over the years, she became she wanted to go. She didn't necessarily hunt, and when we started filming in Africa, this is when she actually became a hunter and learned to love it. And that's that education type thing with people that don't hunt. If you don't throw it in their face and gradually work them into it, you can teach them how to hunt, or even be less attuned to the fact that we shouldn't. And anyway, she became a great hunter, and we've grown. My daughter's 17, and she's turned into a wonderful young woman, and she's been a hunter all her life. When she was 6 months old, I had her on my back at 10,000 feet, scouting for goats, actually. And she was on her first elk hunt when she was 3, and we've just always enjoyed our time together in the outdoors. And this fall, I was actually fortunate enough that I was able to have some serious time off to give her my full attention in the mountains. She's killed cows and whatnot, but she had never killed a bull, and this was her first bull elk that she's harvested this year. So I think it was one of the most important moments in my adult life. As far as being with my daughter and showing her and teaching her my values and my traits in the wilderness and the wilds, and being able to pass that down to her and share that moment when she harvested her first elk. It was really special to me.
As hunters, what do we need to do to welcome women into the outdoors?
I believe we just need to keep an open mind, and they're not, and it's tough to say anymore. They're not as hardy as we are sometimes, or maybe they're not as passionate about it as we are, to stay out on the mountain when it's snowy or cold or raining or whatever it may be, or the hike's long. We need to be patient with them and guide them along and make sure that they're having fun. And that's something that I always made sure that my daughter and my wife were doing in the outdoors. Is it? Yeah, I'll take it to the next level if I have to, and gruel through it, and blisters and hurt, body parts and whatnot. But that might not necessarily be what they need or what they want. So being patient with them and having fun with them and making sure they're enjoying their experience in the outdoors, I think that takes it to the next level for them, where they really start to want to be there.
And thanks for that. We talked a little bit about your career. We touched base on conservation, and let's get to the heart of the matter. Why you are a hunter.
Oh, geez. Well, my parents were divorced when I was very young, and my mother married a man that, I have 2 dads, 2 fathers. It's always been that way, and it'll always continue to be that way. And I credit with my stepfather with everything I know in the hunting outdoor world. He taught me to be an ethical hunter. He taught me to be, a smart hunter and enjoy my time in the outdoors, and keep my eyes open to where I was at all times, and enjoy it at all times. Stop when you're climbing up that 10,000 foot or 14,000 foot mountain and look around to see where you're at, and don't always be so focused on the kill. It is more being in the moment, understanding where you're at, and the beauty that's surrounding you, and the fact that you put yourself into that position that you may take that animal or that trophy of a lifetime, or even just something that's going to go in your freezer and feed you for the winter. That was the biggest thing for me when I was growing up. We ate wild game all year long. It wasn't just a hunting. Of course, he loved hunting and I loved hunting, but we needed those harvests to feed our family all year long. And I've taken that to heart, and I've treated the exact same way. It doesn't always have to be a trophy, as long as I know my freezer's full every year. So hunting's very important to me. not only to feed my family, but to take me and quiet my mind in the mountains, or the flatlands, or wherever I may be, a savanna in Africa, and quiet my mind and get back to my roots and to my basics.
Yeah, we all have to find that balance, and at the core of it, I've been fortunate to be a hunter since I was 10 years old, and there was two gentlemen, Otto Knight and Harry Shear, that got me immersed in the sport, the thrill, the adventure of hunting. And I like to tell people, they said, well, you've been fortunate to hunt all over North America. And I said, yes, but it isn't pulling the trigger or letting the arrow go, or it's more than that. And it's sitting, watching those sunrises, or if you go to Africa, which I look forward to, having sundowners, or just having tea in the middle of the day, and you're sitting there in God's creation, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I can remember pulling a goat off of a mountain in Chukotlin Range up in British Columbia with my cockridge, and I was amazed at what I could see. And you just standing there, and it takes your breath away. And so I just echo what David just said. The hunt, it's the quarry, but enjoy the journey. Your thoughts?
The same way. I mean, I can remember, I've big game hunting and elk hunting and whitetail hunting, deer hunting. Those are my passions here in the U.S., but I've never felt more alive and more, with a purpose than when I set foot in Africa the first time. And, you say overwhelming, and I've had those moments where I felt completely overwhelmed, didn't really know what was going on in my emotions, those moments are why we do what we do, and why we're in the outdoors every fall or every spring with turkeys, or, even the scouting and whatnot that you pursue in the summertime. It's those moments that take your breath away, I suppose.
And you get the chance to capture them on film and tell the story.
It's crazy for me. I've guided a lot, and it became more important for me to give people that opportunity than it was for me to pull the trigger. I guess, a good friend of mine, Tack Robinson, he told me that there's 3 evolutions of a hunter, and that's, the pursuit at first. You got to go, and then you're into this killing mode. You're trying to get, the biggest and the best, and, all of that. And then later in your life, you hit this mode where it's all about the experience and sharing that experience with the people around you. And when I started filming, I'm still on that hunt as if I'm a hunter. I have to hide, and I have to sneak, and I have to do the stalk just as well, if not better, than the guide and the hunter himself, because I'm directly involved with whether that animal is shot or whether that animal gets away. And I sure don't ever want to ruin somebody's opportunity on a trophy or on a hunt in particular. So the hunt behind the camera is just as rewarding as the hunt with the gun. And being able to provide people with their opportunity, whether it's a sheep hunt in Kazakhstan or it's a duck hunt in Louisiana, I provide people with the memories of a lifetime. That stuff never goes away. Memories come and go, and they fade, and sometimes you don't always remember, but you can always put that piece of media back in and see it again. So it's a really, really rewarding thing for me. And, to be able to, like I said earlier with my pictures and showing them, my pictures are they started off being for me, so that I could always remember those specific moments, because when I take a picture, there's a reason I took that picture. And, now that people see those, I'd like to, just like you said, I'm taking them to where I was at that very moment. So I take camera work pretty seriously. And as I do more production work, it's a little I don't know what the right word is. I'm stepping away from the camera a little bit more, so maybe I'll pick up the still camera more. It's a little bittersweet, I guess, is what I would say.
Say, David, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect with David Page?
I've got a personal Facebook page. It's David Page. I'm on Instagram under Fluid Peak, and I've got an email address, fluidpeakproductions@gmail.com. You can reach us through the Confluence Group if you have any outdoor trades-based marketing needs. It's David at thecgrivers.com. And we welcome anybody that wants to strike a conversation with the outdoors. We're passionate about it, and we like to do great work.
And thanks for that. And just to give a shout out to Whitetail Stalker, we're doing some social media leverage, and folks, hopefully you have put in for Colorado. You put in for the Rocky Mountains, and if you have any questions about that, I got a great series, special edition DIY in the Rockies. So go back to my website at www.whitetailrendezvous.com and listen to some of the great DIY hunters that I know personally, and see what they've got to say about hunting the Rockies. So, David, we're at the soft stop. You got a minute or two to give shout outs. I know you could go on for days with those, but do your best for a couple minutes, and then we're going to wrap the show.
I shout out to my dads, Joel Blankenship and David Page. I mean, they shaped, and my grandfathers, both of them. They shaped who I am today in the outdoor world. And I was giving a presentation on Monday, and I had to stop and actually say during the presentation, it was crazy for me to be giving my insight into the outdoor world when that particular company's product was what actually helped shape who I am today in the outdoor world. And I'm not saying I'm much. I'm just a cameraman that got lucky. Be passionate about your passions, and don't ever give up on them. I'm a living proof of that. I never gave up on where I was at in the outdoor world, and it's given me a wonderful career and more opportunities than I could have ever asked for. So I guess my family is the biggest thing for me. And appreciate your time here today, Bruce, and invite me on the show. I've never done one, and it's kind of fun.
Well, Mr. David Page, who's seen some sunrises that folks you and I may or may not ever see, but he's on common ground with the rest of us. We sit around the campfire, we sit on the back of a pickup truck, or we're sitting in a coffee shop, or we're having a cold one. Doesn't really matter, because we're all, there's a commonality, and I take away from this this episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, reach out, volunteer at the DNR, and then get to know a conservationist. That might be like swallowing nails or biting nails or chewing glass, but do it anyway, because as David said, there's more in common than you realize. It's just our approach, and sometimes we're our worst enemies. So with that, David Page, thank you on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show today.
My pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to everybody that follows your podcast.
Hey, folks. Bruce Hutchin, host of Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, I'm pleased to announce that Buckwild Coffee is continuing their sponsorship for 2019. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people every day go to Starbucks and buy coffee. Well, I'll ship it to your house. Yes, I'll ship light, medium, or dark roast, ground or bean, right to your house. It's real simple. Just go to whitetailrendezvous.com/shop, pick out what roast you want, and we'll ship it out. Take a look at Buckwild Coffee, the finest roast in the West. Well, finest roast around the campfire, finest roast around your kitchen table. It's just flat out the finest roast you can get today. Order some at whitetailrendezvous.com/shop. Listen up to the next episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. It is going to be mouth-watering. Why? Because our guest is Chef Derek St. Romain. He learned how to cook down in New Orleans, and they know something about cooking, but he's also cooking up something very special for people that go hungry every single day. And he's formed an alliance with some people, and they call it Backyard Bow Pro. And they literally feed hundreds, if not thousands of people every single year. It's going to be a great episode, and you're going to learn about a man who's been blessed for a lot of things, and he knows how to give back.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.